Hey, how's it going? This is Dylan with Dylan Talks Tone. Today we're going to talk about acoustic guitars. And the reason I want to do that is because a lot of people don't really realize that even though we do all this Talks Tone stuff about electric guitars most of the time, I'm actually really an acoustic guy. That is like my number one choice. If I'm going to pick up a guitar, it's an acoustic guitar. That's my number one choice. In fact, this guitar right here is a 1980 or 81 Sigma DM3 acoustic, so it's like the Korean version of a Martin D18 that I've had since, well, I've had it since 1981. So this guitar has been everywhere, played, flown, beat. There's beach sand in there from a couple of different oceans. This thing's been around. It's been around so much that I don't actually play it anymore because there's some problems with it because I've just, as they say in the South, like worn it slap out. So we'll do some videos about this in the future because we're going to talk about acoustic guitars and some of the things that happen and things to look for when you're shopping for them and that sort of stuff. The reason I wanted to bring up acoustic guitars today is because one of the things that I've seen on the internet over the last week or so is a lot of people that will go into a music store and they'll say, well, the guitars, all the guitars on the wall, none of them are set up properly. Why doesn't the music store set them up correctly? Or I can't believe they're coming from the manufacturer, that terrible setup. Well, this is my new guitar. This thing is set up perfectly, but I spent like 2 hours setting it up. So we're going to use this guitar, and I'm going to show you why those guitars that hang on the wall at many of the bigger retailers play like that and aren't set up very well. Okay? So first of all, what we need to do is we need to think about guitar setup in general. Remember that the truss rod adjustment only determines the flatness or a little bit of relief that belongs in the playing surface, okay? The fretboard surface. It does not adjust string height. What adjusts string height, really on any guitar, when they say string height, they mean action, like how high the string is off of the fretboard, right? Okay? Is the saddle height, right here. Now on an electric guitar, all you do is you adjust the screws to adjust the saddle height. On an acoustic guitar, it's a lot more involved than that. On this guitar, the action came from the factory so high that it was pretty difficult to play. So what you have to do is take the saddle out, put it on a flat block, sand it down, put it back in, measure it, take it back out. I mean, you can measure it a couple of, measure twice, cut once sort of thing and get better at it. But if this is something that you've not done very often, it's something that you really have to take your time doing. Because this is my guitar that I really wanted to play perfect. I took a couple hours and went through a couple sets of strings to get this exactly how I wanted it. Okay? But that's the thing. That's what an acoustic guitar takes. That's what it takes to set it up properly. Now you might say, well, why doesn't the music store where this is hanging do that? Because people play differently. People's preferences are different, okay? And what this comes from is the misconception that people can just turn the truss rod and change the action in the guitar. No. If you look at the fretboard at a lot of those guitars in the store, chances are the neck relief is probably pretty close. This is the adjustment that needs to be made, and your music store really should not make that on a new guitar until after it's sold and then being set up for the player. This guitar came brand new from Breedlove as an artist relations guitar straight to me. So it was like a good guitar picked for me from the factory, sent to me, and it was still set this way because they knew that I was going to set it up exactly how I wanted to set it up. Even a $10,000 guitar like a McPherson comes with 3 different saddle sizes, and then even then you have to adjust it. So it doesn't have anything to do with how much the guitar costs. It doesn't have to do with it's a cheap guitar and it comes that way. It's not like that. They just come that way because they need to be adjusted by the final user. The reason they hang them in the guitar store that way is because theoretically they should not make those adjustments until after the guitar is sold. Because if they do that and it's too low or not correct for the guy that bought the guitar, they actually have to replace parts, the saddle, because you can't ungrind a saddle, to make it for the other player. Okay? That's really the reason. It has nothing to do with the guitar. Most of the time it has nothing to do with the guitar store. It just has to do with the way you set up an acoustic guitar. So we're going to shoot some more videos about how to set up an acoustic guitar properly, and then we'll be able to show you what we're talking about. So when you're in a guitar store, here's a couple of things that you can check for to make sure that this guitar is going to be something that will be adjustable to how you like it. Go back to our other videos on fretboard relief. Remember, all of this stuff applies to all kinds of guitars. Check the relief of the fretboard, how straight the fretboard is, and make sure that it is relatively within spec. And then when you look down the neck, make sure that the only difference really is that the saddle is too high and it just needs to be lowered, because that can be done after purchase. My name is Dylan, and this has been Dylan Talks Tone. How high of action do you like on your guitar? I like mine on my acoustic guitar, and we'll get into this, quite a bit higher than my electric guitar. And there's some pretty big reasons for that. We'll talk about it. Put in the comments below, what do you like? How do you like your acoustic guitar set up? And we'll talk to you next time.